Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Today I wanted to do another showcase on this Squall Shinryu fight, and I really wanted to test out Sid Reigns here, because like I said before, I feel like this fight features more, or like caters more to single target characters than AoE, which is kind of puzzling why they made this Squall Shinryu fight. So I did my main clear with Tifa, and she absolutely dominated this fight. So I thought, why not do the exact same team setup? So it's the same team setup I had, except instead of Tifa, we're going to try Reigns. Because something you guys may not have known, I didn't do this on camera, but I actually did go off camera after like Reigns' main stuff was done, but his banner was still up. I did go back in and get like his FR, and I did green his BT. So I've got Reigns actually like maxed out. So let's see how good is a maxed out Reigns here. And once again, I'm going to use him as my non-Echo character. I still have Sarah and Warrior of Light to Echo. So the one advantage Tifa definitely has is her rework is a little bit newer. And she has Echo where Reigns does not, right? But otherwise, you know, I think Reigns does still hold up pretty well. And what you're going to see in this video, well, his numbers don't quite hit what Tifa's did. In a fight like this, he can work really, really well. So for those of you maybe looking to still get a clear that couldn't get it done, and maybe you don't have Tifa, well, maybe you got Reigns, and you could do a team setup similar to this with Reigns. I think there are a lot of setups you can do on this fight. You definitely could take like the off-turn setup, like a defensive, like a Gladio Core type setup, and just let the enemies attack a lot. It's going to be a little bit more of a grindier fight, but you could definitely do that, I think, or take this very offensive approach that I have taken in my last few clears, which is figure out who your best single target DPS is, who can really grind out the most damage really quick, and really try to cater to that, right? And then what I did do is, because I'm not going for a ticket mission or anything, I'm fine using a friend unit here. So I thought, let's bring in Selfie. Now, the reason why Selfie is important here, you're going to think, well, Reigns already enables launch. Why do you need Selfie? Well, Reigns doesn't really enable launch consistently for the whole party. He's really consistently launching himself, but not for the party. And part of what is going to help this damage is I want to be echoing. And really, Reigns force, if you're not launching, you don't really get percentage gains, not really good ones, right? And so part of what makes this work is when Sarah and Wall are echoing, we need to launch. So putting Selfie debuff on is just a nice complement to Reigns' FR, because we're going to ensure that the rest of my party is launching. And then Reigns, obviously, he can take care of his own launching himself. It's a very similar setup to Tifa, where you basically get Reigns' BT effect up before you go into his burst phase, because like Tifa, his BT effect is very important to him doing damage. He's going to get his really insane counter follow-up. And this is kind of cool because I've never done like a proper showcase of Reigns with his full kit, because initially on his banner when I did his character guide, I was not going to pull for his full kit. Well, like I said, later on I decided to get it. Let's go ahead and show off Reigns here and see what kind of damage he can do, even though it's been a little bit since he's come out, right? And had his last rework, but Reigns is still very good. Reigns is a character I do think ages well typically, because launching, he has that utility of the launching, right? Which is a mechanic that ages well. It's really funny though too, because if you guys remember, he dropped with that damn Spiritus Tree fight, which was really hard. I had to like end a crow that thing to like cheese it. But I was very intent, like, nope, I'm not going to max out Reigns. I'm not going to summon him just to beat the tree. And then sure enough, I just did it later for fun anyways. So I could have just done Reigns on the tree. But the tree's done. I never want to do that fight again. Let that fight rot. I don't want to see that fight ever again. Very toxic fight. I was not a fan of that fight. But anyways, this isn't about the Spiritus Tree. This is about Reigns today taking on the Squall fight, right? So everything's pretty similar to how I ran this with Tifa. We're just doing setup. We're naturally just doing attacks to get our gauge up, because we're not running a force charger here. And with Sarah, I am now popping her BT effect, because I see that we're at 87%. So I want to wait till we're pretty close so I don't burn out all of Sarah's burst, buff before we go into force. Well, now Sarah popped it. We're at 100%. So Reigns is actually ready to go here. And I did give him a Kate Sith call to help improve his damage. So I do believe we pop force here and we go into it. And then with Reigns, we are able to take a turn or two to set up the call. Basically, I think my plan is to FR. We're going to echo with the other two. Then we're going to pop Reigns' BT effect. Then we're going to echo with the other two. Then we're going to go Kate Sith Call, and then go Burst Phase, I believe is the plan here. And notice I did bring Pandemonium Summon. Pandemonium Summon is it's a pretty imperative to a Reigns comp because it enables more HP damage during launch. So anytime you're running a launch-based setup, you pretty much want to bring that Pandemonium Summon. So let's go ahead and echo here with Sarah. So this is the big difference. Had we not did the selfie friend, this would not launch, and you do not get a lot of gains unless you launch. But as long as you have selfie set up here and we launch, we actually get ridiculously good gains on the echoes. So you'll see here what our HP gauge is here. So we got 4 million there and 85%. So very healthy gains for my other characters. That's really going to help push the gauge up. Without a selfie call, if you don't launch, you literally just do like the base 20% that you get from the echo, and that's about it. So it's just not even worth the echo. Like you want to get gains out of the echo. You don't want it to be nothing. Especially on this fight because the boss is so tanky. In other Shinryu fights, yeah, that's fine. You can be a little bit sloppy with that, but here you really got to maximize everything, especially if you want to get this done in one force. Because what you'll find that's a problem is if you don't get this guy done in one force, and you're trying to deal with, like, even if it's 10% without a force, it takes so long. This guy's going to ramp into multiple force times and wear you down, like, because he's got so much HP. Like, 10% is not a small amount for this guy. It's a lot of damage. You're talking, like, because I think this guy has, like, 300 million HP, so 10% would be, like, 30 million. So 30 million is not a small number to try to chip away at the end without a force time. So that's why, like, I know a lot of players have struggled with this fight, because if you don't have the right setup and you're not doing, like, Tifa did like over 70 mil in one attack in my video, right? That's a big chunk. But if you mess up one attack during the force and you waste like one attack, you literally could be throwing away like 50, 60, 70 million damage, and that's a lot of damage to make up. So you got to make sure that you really maximize these force times, right? So here we go. Now, Reigns didn't get it. You saw there, we literally got no gain on it. We only got 3% because we didn't launch. But I had to get his BT effect up. And BTs, you can't launch on those. So that's unfortunate, but that's fine. What I probably could have done, I suppose, I could have hit his BT like before I started force. But the problem is then I think I would have burned too many turns of the BT buff. Because you can see his BT buff is only 6 turns. And we need all of that, because we need that going during his burst phase to really get big damage. Alright, so Warrior of Light, I believe, has one more Echo in him, and then we're going to go Reigns. And then my plan is on Reigns' turn, we are going to put the Kate Sith Call on, put us down to 7, and then we're going to go into burst phase and go crazy from there. I believe that is the plan. And then we're just going to see how much damage Reigns can do. And part of the reason I wanted to do this was I kind of wanted to compare his damage to Tifa, like 1 for 1, to see what his damage looks like compared to hers, right? I do think right now Tifa might be the best single target damage dealer in the game still, and then I think Squall would probably be the best AoE damage dealer in the game. I think they're like top 2 right now for damage. And then, characters like Jack Garland, like they're just still there as like a top tier DPS in general. But I think those two might be the top for depending on the fight. But I did do, by the way, in case you're wondering, I did do a run of this with Squall to get the tickets. And I tried featuring Squall, but since mine isn't green, like it makes a huge difference not having the green BT. I just could not output enough damage. I could only get the boss down to like 40, 50% in one force. And it just wasn't working for me. So what I ended up doing was I basically did Squall, Sarah, and Tifa. So I still just used Tifa as my main DPS with Squall in the party. She did lose damage because Squall doesn't have the auras that Warrior of Light does. But we still got through in basically one force time. I just didn't record that fight. Alright, so now we're into Reigns Burst. And now we're doing our main launch damage. So at 600%, what do we got here? And that's the big finisher. Yeah, 24 mil. So basically now, Reigns is going to be hitting like over 20 mil on every shot. And then we are going to try to get to about max force gauge before we hit his FR. And that's the shot where Tifa did over 70 mil. We're going to see how much damage Reigns can do in the very similar setup. This is almost an identical setup, right, to what Tifa had. So this is a really good comp to see where Reigns stands compared to Tifa. Okay, 35 mil. Very good damage, right? And we saw that's the kind of damage Squall was doing on some of his hits. So Reigns is still there, you guys. Like, Reigns is no slouch. He can still output the damage. The one thing is he just doesn't have Echo. But I think a team setup like this is fine. If you're running 2 other Echoes and then you've got Reigns, it definitely works. And this is a hard fight. Like, this isn't an easy fight. I've just kind of fine-tuned it and gotten it down to where I've done it a few times. I understand what I got to do to get it done in, like, one force. So there's another shot for over 30 mil, 31 mil. And these are just the big chunks you have to take on this guy because he's got so much HP, right? So we're at 898. So I'm like, all right, I want to get one more attack in here. This is going to put us almost to cap. And then we're going to hit the FR and see how much damage we can get. And we're looking for some big damage. Where does he compare to Tifa in the similar situation, right? So they're at 900%. Another 35 mil shot. Very good damage. And now here's the big hitter. And 33% is a lot on this guy, right? To try to get rid of. So let's see if we can't get a big chunk here with the FR. We're going to bring Sarah up on the FR effect. Okay. Let's see. What do we got here? This is the Big Daddy attack. Then the launch. And then we got the big Seraphic charge at the end. Alright. How much damage can Reigns do here? This is his biggest hit. 50 million. So, not quite as good as Tifa. But, dude, 50 million on a shot? Pretty dang good, right? Very, very good damage. And I'm sure there are ways you could optimize this maybe a little bit better. There maybe could be a different call. You know, maybe, what's his face? Like a Leo call, maybe, with getting some true HP damage. Maybe that would be enough to bring him up there. So 213 mil burst phase, though, for Reigns. Definitely not bad, right? And we still got, or no, that was our last hit. So we got him down to 13%. So this is still a little bit dicey. This isn't in the bag. Because the boss is going to start ramping into force very quick. And 13% is going to take a while. Luckily, we have a summon on our side. So the plan here is at some point we're going to use the summon so that we can try to take advantage and get our gauge past. Because I do have another Reigns force I can go into to get that last bit of damage. So really it's just a race now to who can get their force first. Or can we stall out enough to get him killed before his force drops, right? So let's drop the summon here. Now that's going to life gain him. So this here is actually kind of the one bad part about Pandemonium is he does absorb wind. So you're going to see here, I still do pretty good damage, but that's through Brave gaining. But you notice my Brave shaving isn't going to work. He's going to stay capped. So it's a little bit dicey. So that's the one advantage of maybe bringing Bahamut here, because Bahamut would be non-elemental. But I think it made up for it with all the extra damage we got from all the launching, right? From having the Pandemonium summon here. But that is one thing that's a little iffy about this, is that this guy absorbs, right? So that Seraphic charge not hitting nearly as hard. They're still getting 3.6 mil. I mean, with Seraphic charge, like, he's putting up really good numbers single target. Darn near 4 mil attack stats here. You know, just on regular damage. So Reigns is still quite powerful. He's a character that I think, you know, because I didn't max him out initially, he went a little bit under the radar for me, because then I kind of didn't use him when he was in his prime, and then by the time I maxed him, I had already just been using other characters. So this I thought was a really good chance for me to bring him out, and I'm glad I did, because it showed me that Reigns is still a top-tier damage dealer and a very, very good option for this fight. And I got the idea because people started posting in the comments like, hey, Reigns is good here too, and I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. I knew he would be good here. Just because I know how his kit works, and he's a single target god, right? So, and with his turn manipulation, like, you can do a lot to, like, keep the boss from attacking if you're in a tough situation. So because the launch damage is so heavy here, even without force, we are whittling him down actually fairly quick. But you can see here, we're at 56 to their 51. So because of the summon, we're just barely able to squeak ahead on the force gauge. And we just have to hope that the timing is right. Because the other bad thing that can happen is we could hit our force, but it might not be Reigns' turn. And if it's not Reigns' turn, I mean, the boss is only going to be within one turn of hitting their force probably. So there's still a little bit of diciness here. So we'll use Seraphic Ray, the EX. But yeah, look at the damage here. Seraphic Charge, man. Big damage. Yeah, 4.3. So Reigns is just casually hitting 4 mil attacks without a force gauge. That's very powerful. Like, Reigns is top tier. That is... not every character can just whip out 4 mils like that, right? Like, basically the comp would be Tifa. Tifa with her BT effect and doing double follow-ups. Yep, she can crank out 4 mils. Just like Reigns can right there. And I think Squall, like if you actually have him green with his BT effect up and he's popping his EX, he's probably about there too. But he's also got more splash and stuff. So like I said, I think Squall and AoE is probably the king right now. But Tifa and Reigns, man, they're looking really good for single target. Looking very good. And I think Tifa's the queen. Plus she's got Echo. So yeah, Tifa just looking really good. She might be my kind of damage dealer staple here for a little bit. We'll see what Mog's fight looks like. I'm guessing Mog's fight, it might be very aggressive where they want you to keep them like paralyzed or neutralized. Because that's part of Mog's kit, and then like some of his banner mates have that paralyzed as well. So I feel like they're going to try to emphasize that. And I know for Mog's FR, you have to have like a paralyzed to get some percentage. So here, we're actually really close. We're at 85, but the enemy's actually almost dead. So this shows you how powerful Reigns is. That even without a force time, we whittled this guy down like crazy. I think this is going to work out. My hope here is that we hit 100, like, because the enemy's going to take a turn. And my hope is we're going to hit 100 and they won't, and then I can pop the Reigns FR to finish this guy off, is my hope. But it might be to the point that Reigns' next attack will just finish either way, even without the force. So this is going to work out. Oh, so it gets dicey, though, because, look, the enemy is about to get theirs, right? So we got so lucky. Oh, I was going to say 99.5, but then he did go to 100. So they did get force time. So we just have to survive that. Thankfully, we've got Warrior of Light. And then it's like, all right, we just got to finish off because now we're going to hit this poison right there. Now, I know we're still within the HP limit, but if like two characters took a turn, I don't think we'd meet the HP requirement. So it's kind of like, all right, we actually have to kind of win like right here. So I'm just hoping that this does enough damage. Because even at 1%, once again, it's a big chunk still. So even though that seemed like a fairly clean fight, you can see how it can get ugly really quick. Because then with that 10-turn force, like if you don't have healing, you're not going to meet HP requirement. Luckily, we did a 5 mil shot right there. Finished them off. So we did get the victory there with Reigns. So anyways, guys, let me know if you're still having trouble with this fight. If you want to join my Discord to get help, it is in the description of all my videos. But yeah, we'll be looking forward to Mog coming out very soon as well. Hope you enjoyed this fight. Reigns is still good. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.